Hello YouTube, Snowflarkyzemos, and I'm here with my World Legacy Monstrosity Level 9, Rank 9 deck. This is another deck I've just casually put together for playing with my friends. Um, it's a deck that gets out a lot of level 9 monsters to go into rank 9 XZ's plays, and this card here, World Legacy Monstrosity, really allowed this strategy to kind of flourish. This deck was pretty easy to add to my collection because in the 20 megatins there was lots of reprints of a lot of these rank 9 like level 9 strategy cards, so it was pretty accessible and it works pretty well with a strategy I already played in Prediction Princess, so it was an easy addition to the collection. I thought it was kind of cool because there are lots of cool level 9 monsters that I do enjoy using, and it's fun to be able to kind of blend a bunch of them together, and of course it allows me to use kind of an extra deck core that just isn't really played anywhere else. It historically has not been easy to make rank 9 XZs, and there's some other cards in here that I play that are like that, and so that also became a draw just because it kind of gives me a unique extra deck playing experience. So pretty cool deck. We'll go through how it works as we break down the card by card. Starting off with our monster lineup, I am playing 3 copies of Prediction Princess Terratray. So I'm a huge fan of Prediction Princesses, as you may have seen previously on the channel, but Prediction Princess Terratray works pretty well with this deck because it is a level 9 monster, which is the synergy we need, and it's also a light fairy, which one thing out the gate is that it is important to have level 9s of different attributes and typings to get some of the full potential of this deck realized. And Prediction Princess Terratray, given that it's a ritual and with the amount of ritual support that's in the game, it is a pretty accessible card to just drop on the field, especially when everything else we're playing is mostly level 9s that we can distribute one card for, and we need these cards that we can get on the field before we play World Legacy Monstrosity, and Terratray is definitely one of them. Terratray is just a pretty good card. It once per turn, quick effect, can flip a monster either face up attack or face down defense, which is pretty sweet. And we can definitely make use of that effect because there are 2 really good level 9 flip monsters that we're playing in this deck that we'll come across later that work for both the World Legacy Monstrosity synergy as well as just having good effects to trigger with Terratray. And also what's really nice about Terratray is at the end phase of each of your turn, you can special summon a flip monster from your hand or graveyard, which is pretty nice because you can use your flip monsters as material for an XZ summon, for a Link summon, and if you get it in the graveyard before the end of the turn, you can just bring it right back to create a form of disruptive play. So Prediction Princess Terratray at 3, very good card to get things going. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of World Legacy Guardragon Mardark. Level 9 Wind Dragon monster. That's pretty cool. It's got 2600 attack. When it's on the field, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense for each dragon type monster you control. So not too many other dragons we're running in this deck, but with Mardark, that means they're at least losing 500, which is pretty cool. And what's nice about this card is this is another card that is kind of what I consider one of the starters because it's pretty easy to summon. You can essentially banish 2 normal monsters from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And we play a strategy that will get us those normal monsters access to so that we can just drop World Legacy Guardragon Mardark. And of course, this is a wind and a dragon, which is different than Terratray, very useful. So that's awesome. And then, of course, this card has a secondary effect. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add from your graveyard or your to your hand 1 level 9 monster with a different original type and attribute than this card, which, is another reason we want all the different types and attributes. Just recycles one that's in the grave, add it to the hand. That can be pretty useful depending on what you get. So, definitely one of the cards we want to see. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of BES Blaster Cannon Core. This card is pretty sweet. 2500 attack machine monster. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon it. So, go second with this deck. Special summon this card for free. That's pretty nice. Definitely gives us a level 9 on the field to start accessing more of our plays. When this card is summoned, you can place 3 counters on this card, and it cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled, you remove 1 counter from this card, and if you cannot, then this card is destroyed. That usually doesn't come up too much. You're usually getting it off the field, or it's perfectly fine. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. To summon it on the field, it's an earth and a machine. So once again, we have different attribute and typing than the other 2 we've seen so far. We are going to see some types and attributes that intersect from now on, but those 9 cards being the main level 9 starters to get things going are definitely things that we want to see. Next up, I'm playing 1 copy of Arcjet Lightcraft. Pretty interesting card. It's a level 9 that, if we don't control any other monsters, we can normal summon this card without tribute. So again, technically it can be a starter because we can just normal summon it without tribute. And of course, if this card is normal or special summon, you can target a level 8 or lower machine monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode, and if you do, its level becomes 9. And Arcjet is already a level 9, so that means it gives you access to a rank 9 Xyz plays. We are playing machines in this deck that do qualify. It does require level 8 or lower though, so BES Blaster Cannon Core does not work with it. Now the only thing is that you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except machine type XZ monsters while this card's on the field. So do note that when you play this, it does lock you into machine type XZs. So if you're looking to summon other things, make sure you do that before you play Arcjet Lightcraft. Next up here, I am playing a copy of Day X Crawler. This is a pretty sweet card because it's one of our flip effect skill drain targets, which is awesome. What this card does is that when it's flipped face up, it negates the effects of monsters on the field, which is pretty sweet. It's level 9, which is sick. It's an insect, which is a different type. Now Earth, now we do have matching Earth attribute. But this is nice because this is one of the cards that we can use with our rank 9 XZs or our extra deck plays, and then if we have Terratray still on the field, we could summon it back at the end phase and give our opponents a skill drain effect during their turn, which is pretty powerful. That is definitely awesome. And of course, if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand a level 9 monster with a different original type and attribute than this card. So has that effect kind of like the World Legacy Dragon. And that's sick. Get you a card that you need to your hand. Something that you could use. And that is awesome. Next up, the other level 9 flip we are playing, a copy of Pot of the Forbidden, another flip monster that we can use with Terratray, also a level 9. It's a rock earth. Flip, you can activate one of these effects. You can either draw 2 cards, return all spell and trap cards on the field to the hand, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, look at your opponent's hand, and shuffle 1 card from it back into the deck. So all really powerful effects, and you can switch, you can change which one you're using based on the current situation. Destroying all your opponent's monsters during their turn can be pretty disruptive. Drawing 2 cards during your turn can give you access to make more plays. Returning all spells and traps can push for OTKs, and of course, if you got your opponent low on resources, shuffling a card from their hand can really limit their play. Another card that we definitely want to be using for our extra deck plays so that we can get it back into the graveyard and special summon it back with Terratray because it is a flip effect monster. Next up, playing a copy of Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. This card is a pretty sweet rank 9 monster. Level 9 monster, not rank 9. But you can Normally you would summon this card by banishing an equip spell, uh, and you could special summon it, but we don't play any equip spells in this version. This is mostly just one of the big targets we're bringing off of World Legacy Monstrosity. And essentially, why we want this card is because when it attacks a monster, you can equip a monster on the field to it. So, you can easily remove an opponent's monster, non-targeting, non-destruction removal, which is awesome. And then while it has an equip card on it, when a monster effect would be activated, you can send that card to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy the card. So, gives you monster effect negation, which is pretty sweet. And so those two reasons definitely make this a card that we want to see and pull off of World Legacy Monstrosity. You can use it for extra deck plays, but if we can get it back out on the field and able to use, we can definitely make use of it. And awesome card that I'm a big fan of, so another reason that I wanted to build this deck for sure. Next up, I'm playing a copy of Nightmare Incarnation Italy. This is just a nice board ender for the World Legacy Monstrosity play. If you want, that is essentially just says level 9 monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so it gives them some protection there, which is pretty sweet. Of course, it has other effects that we can use that come up sometimes. If the total link rating of monsters on the field is 8 or more, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. So it gets you a free summon that would give your monsters protection. And of course, if this card is special summoned while your opponent controls more link monsters than you do, you can send all link monsters on the field to the graveyard. So if you're playing against a link deck, they have a really big, maybe U-Link built up, the link rating is 8 or more, you can summon this card and, just send them all to the graveyard. Wipe the whole link board, which is pretty cool. That definitely comes up. So it's just a good option to have. These last few slots, we need just a couple other level 9s to be pulling off of World Legacy Monstrosity, have plenty of materials to go into things, so Italy seemed like a pretty good choice. The only thing I will say that negative about it is that it is a fairy, which means if Terra Tray is our starter we're playing Monstrosity on, we're not going to be able to pull out that. But that's fine, we got plenty of other targets. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit. With World Legacy Guard Dragon Mardark in this deck, we need access to normal monsters. We want to get them in the grave, we want to get them in the hand, and Rescue Rabbit can just pull 2 normal monsters of the same name out of our deck, and then we can, of course, do an extra deck summon with them in order to get them in the grave. Now, we're only going to pretty much resolve one of these, but it's a great card to have, a great card that we need to see, so we're playing 3 because we want to see it. For those of you who don't know, Rescue Rabbit just says that you contribute this card to special summon 2 normal monsters, level 4 or lower normal monsters, with the same name from your deck, but destroy them at the end of the turn. So, pretty nice. And let's take a look at the targets that we're going to pull off. I am playing 3 copies of Archfiend Soldier. Archfiend Soldier is a 1900 attack fiend normal monster, the highest attack of 1800 attack fiends, which is pretty nice. The reason I'm going with this target is not only is Archfiend Soldier one of my favorite, but it's really easy to get 2 Archfiend Soldiers off the field for a copy of Master King Archfiend, which has good link arrows. And, unlike in XZ, the link gets the materials right in the grave so that we can follow up with a Mardark play, which is pretty sweet. We definitely want 2 copies of this around, so I'm playing at 3. And my other option is I am playing 2 copies of Mechanical Chaser, 1850 machine monster, which is pretty sweet. And like Archfiend Soldier, we can go into Cleafort Genius off of this one, getting them both in the grave for Mardark access. So that is the reason that I have picked these 2 vanillas as the targets for Rescue Rabbit to pull out of the deck. And with that, we are done with our monsters. Alright, next going out into our spells, I'm playing 3 copies of the namesake of this deck, World Legacy Monstrosity. This is the card that lets this deck work. This card is awesome. I like this kind of support a lot. Essentially, you can activate one of the two effects listed on this card. You can either special summon a level 9 monster from your hand, which is an option if you have no other way to get a level 9 monster out and you need it to do something. But more importantly, we want this second effect where if we have a level 9 monster on the field, we can target that level 9 monster we control and special summon from our deck 2 level 9 monsters, each with different original type and attribute from the face-up targeted monster. So, with our Terra Tray, we can pull out anything, other level 9s that are not light or fairy. Mardark, if they're not dragon or wind, we can pull them out. So it gets us out 2 level 9 monsters from our deck, which is awesome. That is just pulling 2 cards from our deck onto the field. Now, of course, the 2 monsters that we summon cannot attack, and also they are destroyed during the end phase. So, they can't attack. They're destroyed during the end phase. And so oftentimes it means, hey, it's time for us to make an extra deck monster with these. And that's perfectly fine because there's lots of good extra deck payoffs, which is nice. One thing, though, is that since it destroys them at the end phase, we could protect them with Incarnation Italy, although usually that's not worth it because the fact that they can't attack, well, you'd rather make an extra deck monster with them anyway that has an effect, can attack, and then pull those materials back. But, yep, just a sweet card. Definitely the thing that made this deck work, and when we opened our tins and we found ourselves with a playset, I was like, well, I might as well just put this together, have some fun with it. So, there we go. Next, I am playing 3 copies of Kuji Kiri Curse. This is trade-in, but for level 9 monsters, we can send a level 9 monster from our hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. The only problem, unlike trade-in, though, is that we can only activate 1 of this per turn. That's fine. Use this to unclog some brick hands. Use this to get materials into the grave that we want to pull out. And in exchange, the cards just replace itself. So no real loss there. It just moves through the deck. The only thing to note is that maybe 3 is a bit cloggy, because if we draw into another, that kind of stinks. But, I haven't been burned by it too much yet, so I'm still playing it at 3. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Painful Decision. Rescue Rabbit isn't the only way for us to get access to our normal monsters. Painful Decision is a spell card that lets us send a level 4 or lower normal monster from our deck to the grave, and then we can add one with the same name to our hand. Normally, I'm going to prioritize Mechanical Chaser if I have both copies still in the deck, just because it has 2 copies. And, but if you already have one, you can grab Archfiend Soldier. Usually one of them will be available, and that just means this one card can get Mardark online. Another option, Mardark is a card we definitely want to be summoning, so glad to have more ways to set it up. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Prediction Ritual. This is a spell, the ritual spell that allows us to summon Prediction Princess Terra Tray. All we have to do is tribute stars up to level 9, which is not hard. Most things in this deck are level 9, which is pretty sweet. And, of course, it has a secondary effect that during your turn, other than the turn this is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to add a Prediction Princess monster from your deck to your hand. This can be used to grab us an additional copy of Terra Tray, and honestly, this effect has made me consider finding a space to play 1 Coin Rama, just to get that extra target out of the deck, and then Coin Rama could tutor out both Dex Crawler or Pot of the Forbidden out of the deck. Something I'm looking to test. It's not in it now, but I might try it out in the near future. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. This is a spell card that just allows us to add a ritual spell from our deck to our hand, and then a monster whose name is specifically listed on it from our deck or graveyard to our hand. That works with Terra Tray and the Prediction Ritual, so this one card gets us both of these, which is awesome, and for that reason, we definitely want to be playing it. Now we can only use 1 Pre-Preparation of Rites per turn, but that is alright. And last up on the spells, I am playing a copy of Monster Reborn. There are definitely going to be lots of powerful level 9 monsters that'll be in our graveyard, and having access to just pull one out, say if it's, Mardark for more attack reduction, if it's Immortal Phoenix Gearfried for the the non-targeting, non-banishing removal and effect negation, Italy, plenty of things in there that we can pull and can extend our extra deck plays even further. Definitely a good home for this card. Next, we're going to talk about trap cards. I am only playing 2 trap cards in this deck, and it's cards I have in here to try to assist with a going second strategy, and that is 2 copies of Evenly Matched. Basically, at the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls more cards than you do, you can make your opponent banish cards from the field face down until they control the same number of cards you do. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. So, if we want to go second, our opponent sets up a board. Evenly matched is quite an annoying thing, especially if we can bait out the negates beforehand, and then we can evenly match. I'd probably run maybe 3 copies of this card, but I actually only own 2, so I'm only playing 2 at this time. Definitely a thing to consider, I would in general say, if you're looking to play this kind of deck or strategy. I think there is a lot to be said about trying to plan on doing a going second build, since it's necessary for things like BES Blaster Cannon Core and things like that. So having those powerful going second tools, Pancratops, the right hand traps, all that is very well to consider. Evenly matched, like I said, I mostly play this deck casually, so evenly matched usually gets the job done if I need to pull it off. And pretty powerful card, awesome board breaking tool, of course. And that is it for our main deck. All right, now looking at our extra deck, we're going to start first with kind of the big level 9 payoffs. And that is starting with our 2 copies of World Gears of the Theurological Dimergy. Pardon me for butchering that name. So this is a Link 3 monster that requires 3 level 5 or higher monsters to Link summon it. And since everything we're pulling out is level 9, and it's easy to get at least 3 level 9s, we can easily go into this card. Well, what is the benefit we get for sacking off all those level 9s? Well, we get a 3,500 attack monster that is unaffected by other monster effects. So that's pretty powerful. 3,500 attack is big, unaffected by monster effects, gives, takes care of a lot of the ways that cards are typically removed in current Yu-Gi-Oh! And in addition to that, we also get this nice effect that during your main phase, if you control this card that was link summoned by using 3 monsters that had different types and attributes, which is literally what's going to happen if we play World Legacy Monstrosity, then we can destroy all other cards on the field, and we can do that during each of our turns. And if we get our opponent stuck in a cycle where we've wiped their board, and they can't respond with a good enough board to get rid of this card, and we do it again, it puts them in a position where they really won't be able to win from. In addition to that, if our opponent special summons a monster from their extra deck, except during the damage step, we can special summon a World Legacy monster from our deck. That does mean that we can get copies of Guard Dragon Mardark, just pull them out of the deck during our opponent's turn, and of course that reduces their attack, pulls monsters out of our deck. Very nice. So lots of cool payoffs. Definitely a target to consider going into if this card will close things out for you. Next up for links, I am playing the 1 copy of Master King Archfiend. 2,000 attack Link 2. I just found this to be the highest attack Link 2 that I could easily pull off of normal monsters, which is mainly its main use. It has some effects, but it's not that useful. You can pay life points and send a fiend type monster from your deck to the graveyard whose attack is equal to the amount of life points you pay. So you can pay 19 to get an Archfiend Soldier out of your deck if you don't want to draw it, if you need it for Mardark, etc. And then of course, if a fiend type monster is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can roll a 6-sided die and apply one of the effects based on the number rolled. If it's a 1, you can add it to your hand. If it's a 6, you can special summon it, but if it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, you shuffle it into the deck. So not too useful, mostly just here for the 2,000 body and the good link arrows and getting our fiend normal monsters into the grave. Similarly, I am playing a copy of Cleafort Genius, which is the same role but for the mechanical chasers. Uh, Now, this link summon card is unaffected by spell and trap effects and the activation of effects. Um, and then, of course, one nice thing about this is that once per turn, you can target a face-up card on each player's field except this card, and both those cards have their effects negated this turn. So definitely something we can use. Um, so that comes up, makes it maybe a little more useful than Master King Archfiend, but mostly it's just in here to, get our mechanical chasers into the graveyard and have good link arrows. Now, some of the rank 9 payoffs. I'm playing a copy of Sacred Tree Beast Hyperton. So this requires 2 level 9 monsters. During your turn, when you activate a card or effect, quick effect, you can target a card of the same type, either monster, spell, or trap, from in your graveyard and attach it to this card. So it gives this card more materials, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, the reason you want to do that is during your opponent's turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can detach a material of the same type, monster, spell, or trap. And if you do, negate the activation, and of course destroy the card. So you can only use the effect of this once per turn. But essentially, you get monsters on it to start, so you can negate monster effects with this card. But if you can activate another spell card and put a spell card on this card, then you also have the flexibility to negate a spell. And that is pretty good. So for that reason, definitely a card to consider if you want some negation on your end board. Pretty cool card. Continuing on, I am playing a copy of Infinitrax Earth Slicer. It's a 3100 attack monster that requires 2 level 9 monsters to make and is a machine. So if we're using Arcjet Lightcraft, this is one of the 2 cards that we're playing that we can make with it. Earth Slicer is pretty nice because if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can attach that monster to this card as a material, so giving it more materials. And of course, now we have the effects of it, which you can detach any number of materials from this card to target that many cards on the field and destroy them. So pretty cool. You got 2 pops right out the gate, and if you destroy monsters by battle and equip it, you can get more, which is pretty sweet. And of course, if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute a machine link monster to special summon this card in defense mode. So pretty interesting. We can use that with our Cleafort Genius, which is a machine. Another reason to play the Genius. Another big payoff. So that's pretty cool. Definitely a cool card to consider going into. Has its uses, so good to have in the extra deck. Next, I am playing a copy of Phantom Fortress Enter Blathnir. This requires 2 level 9 monsters. Once per turn, you can detach a material to activate one of these 4 different effects. You can either banish a card your opponent controls, banish a random card from your opponent's hand, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up. So lots of different options here. I would say the most useful ones are either banishing a card on the field or banishing a random card from the hand. If your opponent's field is already wiped, you have more materials, things to go into, you can just rob them a card from their hand. Gives them a lot tougher time on the crackback. And of course, given that it's a machine, we can make it with Arcjet. Pretty cool. Definitely a cool monster to have and be able to play. And for the last of the level 9 payoffs, I am playing 2 copies of 9 Lives Cat, which is pretty cool. Definitely one of the reasons I wanted to make this deck. It requires 2 level 9 monsters. Your opponent cannot target other monsters you control that were special summoned from the graveyard with card effects. So that's pretty cool. Things you're monster reborning, things you're summoning off Terra Tray. They can't target them with card effects. And then, of course, we can detach a material from this card, then target a level 9 monster in our graveyard, or just one monster in our opponent's graveyard and special summon it. So pretty cool. This card can special summon great level 9s back from our graveyard. We can use it to grab, it's a way to grab Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, which is a nice payoff. It's a way to grab Italy if we want that protection. It's a way to grab Mardark if we need the attack reduction. It's a way to grab back Terratrays so that we can use Terratray's effect to get us flip monsters. And so that, just can generate quite a bit of advantage. Now we can only use 9 lives cat once per turn. So yeah, pretty cool target to have. I definitely thought this was a cool card and one of the reasons I wanted to build this deck. Next up, going through the rest of the extra deck, I'm playing a copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. We have a lot of XZs on this in this deck, so of course if we attack with those XZs, we can throw Sky Thunder on top of them, transferring its materials to it, and it gives us access to the Sky Thunder's quick effect, where we can detach 2 materials during either player's turn to send all other cards on the field to the graveyard. So just a non-destruction board wipe that is quick effect, very disruptive. Very powerful. We all know that Divine Arsenal Zeus is a great card, and for that reason, easy extra deck slot filled. For the rest of the extra deck, I am playing just kind of some rank 4 good stuff that I can make off of Rescue Rabbit. One, of course, Baguska, the terribly tired tapir. You summon it in defense, and then all monsters are shifted into defense and can't activate their effects. Just gives you a kind of pseudo skill drain for 2 turns. So this is a good target to go into if you don't really have a lot of other plays and are hoping to just stall a turn or two. Maybe Baguska can pass it off, especially in a casual setting. So something to keep in mind. Next, I am playing a copy of Tornado Dragon. Tornado Dragon, quick effects, detach a material to target a spell or trap and destroy it. So pretty cool. We want to get rid of pesky spells and traps. Tornado Dragon can do just that. Next up, a copy of Castel the Sky Blaster Musketeer. We can detach 2 materials to target a face-up card and shuffle it back into the deck. Pretty cool. Shuffling it back into the deck is quite annoying. Detaches 2 materials, so that can get both our normal monsters off real quick. Definitely a cool option to have. Next, a copy of Abyss Dweller. Detach a material during either player's turn, and our opponent cannot activate the effects of cards in the graveyard. Deny graveyard effects can be pretty powerful. Definitely something we want to have the option of doing. And last, I am playing the copy of Gaga Cowboy. Lots of big monsters in this deck, so we can do lots of damage, but if we're just 800 short of an OTK, maybe putting our normal monsters in to a Gaga Cowboy gives us an extra 800 damage burn. Pretty sweet. Definitely can be switched out for something, but I've won quite a few games with Cowboy in this deck, so, still gaining that last slot from me. So that is it for my level 9, rank 9 deck profile. Let me know what you think. I'm definitely having fun with this deck. It's one of my newest decks, so I'm still learning how to play it more optimally. But I like all the options it has. I like all the unique extra deck monsters that you can summon that you just really can't summon in many other decks at all. And for that reason, also just because of how easily accessible the cards were to me, it was an easy grab to add to my casual collection. So it has definitely been fun. Always love more reasons to play Terratray. But I appreciate you checking it out, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.